East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with David Mackey. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, David Mackey.
Hello and welcome to Mackey and Dave's Shiny Side Out. Dave is not here today. Not today. That's okay. I don't know where Dave is. Dave is in Melbourne, I think. Dave, if you're listening, hope you're doing well, my friend. Everything here just fine. Thank you. Now, the station is listener funded, which means if you like what you're hearing, then please donate. It is critical, believe it or not. We need your money to keep the station going. Really important, critically important, it's really important that we keep this platform moving, right, guys? That's right. Beautiful. And Solaris, thank you, Solaris. You had a great show as well. And that brings me to my next point. Solaris is the host that has the show just before this one. She had a roundtable today. But if you missed it, that's okay, because you can catch her on the archives. You just go to revolution.radio and you're going into the archives, right? And her roundtable was in fact with Matt Painter and hang on, I'll tell you who else. There was a couple of people here. That's not what I want. And John was there as well. Doesn't want to do it. Okay, doesn't want to do what I want it to do. That's what normally happens, right? Whenever you want to do something, you just can't do what you want to do. Okay, no, that's all good. We're getting there. Here we go. She had Matt Painter, John, and Harry on her roundtable. Beautiful. Thank you, Solaris. But like I said, if you missed the show, that's okay. You can catch it in the archives, and you can catch all the hosts' shows in the archive. You can also catch this show, Shiny Side Out, as it were, show number 500 something. Lots of shows now, over 530. It's just I didn't think we'd be on the air this long, to be honest with you, but here we are anyway. You can catch us in the archives, so you can come to YouTube, see us there, Patreon as well, if you're that way inclined. It's all good. But you can catch us anywhere online. So grab an app, right? Or if you're at home, you can catch us on the Grace Tabletop Digital Radio, right? But I do impress upon you the importance of coming to the website, because if you come to the website, you can also come into the chat. And I'm not in the chat right now. I'll tell you why I'm not in there. Because I can't get in. That's what it is. I'm on a different machine today, and I cannot get into the chat. Try to get in. I'll keep trying. I will keep trying. I'm waiting for a email to come here, but anyway, it hasn't happened yet. Never mind. It's all good. But before I start broadcasting at you in anger, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. And actually, I'm broadcasting here from Cammeraygal country today. Cammeraygal country. That's the custodians here in North Sydney, where I am today. Not the Rock people in Pamaway like I normally do, but the Cammeraygal people. And with that, I would like to acknowledge the elders, past, present, and future, and pay my respects to them at the same time. Right here we are, another round of the Shiny Side Out. I might have my brother pop in, possibly, but we'll see. That didn't work. I didn't get a one-time password. But what's been happening in the world, right? What's been happening in the world has been bothering me quite a bit. It's a crazy amalgamation of end time behavior, right? Hate to say it, but that's what it feels like, right? We are looking at a whole bunch of people acting in really, really strange ways. And then now Mr. Putin has come out. Oh, this is funny. And said, yeah, now we're going to occupy. And Lithuania, yeah, we're not too happy with them being independent either. Okay. Maybe a little too soon, but there we are nonetheless. And now this is, of course, making everybody think. I mean, the Scandinavian countries, the Baltic nations, right? Everybody, I guess any nation that was formerly a part of the Soviet Union is now thinking, oh, geez, what are we going to do here? What's going to happen? What, is he going to attack us next? But what is the goal? And the answer is, I really don't know, right? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. It's really, it's a crazy situation. And at the same time, he's not really winning the war in the Ukraine. So it's really hard to understand why he's doing what he's doing. To be honest with you, it just doesn't make any sense, right? We have a leader here that is trying to revive the greatness of Russia, which is cool. I got no issue with that. People do that, But he's going about it in all the wrong ways, and he's making a lot of mistakes, and he's miscalculating. And people say that there was an attempt on his life. Apparently, CIA sources have said that at the beginning of the year there was an attempt, and he also apparently is battling with cancer. I don't know if that is true, but it would explain some of these activities, because let's say you are the leader of a powerful nation, as he is, and you only have a limited time left to live. All right, forget the assassination for a second, but let's say you got cancer, right? So what do? I mean, Putin is the kind of guy that wants to leave a legacy, right? No doubt. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. He wants to leave a legacy. But it's I don't know. It's not a safe place for the rest of us, right? We're not in a good place, because we are at the whim of a person that might very well be dying and then wants to leave a legacy. Legacy, of course, being, I want to make Russia great again. I want to make Russia as it was, maybe during the Soviet era, even though most of that greatness was really a bit of a farce and theater. There wasn't much reality to it, to that greatness, as it were. Right. So let me try one more time to log in. Email. Okay, let me see one more time. Chatsy. Let me see if you let me into the chat room. Here we go. Okay, I got my email here. All right, and I'm gonna say I'm a new user. I'm not a robot. Sending the email, please. A one-time code. Okay. There's no. So can I just say it doesn't seem to work? It's not in the junk folder either. No, it's not there. Yeah, sorry, I can't join the chat today. Terribly sorry about that. But I'm not getting any Chatsy emails coming through. No. Sorry, the chat has got to do without me today. My apologies. Just can't get in there. Maybe the new chat room. This is a link to a new chat room I'm going to here right now. Welcome to me. Continue. Okay. Continue in your browser. Yes. Can I get in here? Element. Here we go. It's all opening up. I'm going to allow. Yes. No. Okay. I'm not. Yeah, I'd like to sign in, but I can't. It's the same issue. Ay vey. I just can't get in there. Okay. Let me just see if I can sign up. Maybe can I sign up? No. Okay, one more time. One more time. One more time. One more time. Here we go. And there we go. Nothing happening. Nothing happening. No. Yep, one more time. Okay, this is live action here. We're going to try to get to the chat room where I am at Hotmail. Yes, I got a Hotmail account, believe it or not. That's how old I am. Okay. Okay, I'm not a robot. No, I'm not a robot. Here we go. Okay, yes, I agree to the terms and conditions. Yes. They sent me an email. Oh, that worked. Alrighty-o. Maybe I'm in here. That would be. Validation failed for the following reason. Unknown session ID. Oh, it didn't work at all. Okay. Sign in. Signing in, syncing. Am I coming into the chat? Maybe. No. Yes. Join the discussion. No. No. And no. Rooms. What rooms do we have? No rooms. Freedom room. Yeah, that's what I want. Freedom rooms. Okay. Here we go. Hello. Can you all see me? Next the wolf. 8 is there. Amelia. Omega Logos. Yes, hurrah. Can you see me? I'm on a new machine. Oh, yes, you can. Omega Logos can see me. Yes. Success. See, that's how easy it is, everybody. I told you come into the chat room. You just heard me live creating a whole new account in the new chat room because I'm on my at my brother's house on a different computer, and I have no idea what my login credentials are, as many of you might, which is awesome. So easy. Easy. So just come on in. Get in that chat room, right? That's all I'm saying. Don't have to, but I think it'd be great if you did. Having said all of that, where does that leave us? Where does it leave us? It leaves us worrying again, because now more so than in a long time, we depend upon the whims of single people, right? There's Putin. I guess there's Joe Biden. There's the I guess the Chinese and North Korean leadership, I guess, to some extent. But these are all people, right? So this is personality driven, what we're seeing today. It's all driven by individual personalities, which is a dangerous thing. It's more dangerous than the Cold War because there's no longer any ideologies that are opposing each other. So I mean, back in the day, we had communism on one hand and capitalism on the other. It was really easy to understand, right? And it was, and it wasn't like really people or personalities that were driving it. I mean, of course, always were, but in reality, it was one thought construct against another thought construct, right? And individual people didn't really matter that much. We are no longer living in that world. We're now in a world where the individual seems to matter more than it ever did, especially in senior leadership. You look at Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin, and you look at our new leader, Anthony Albanese, and the old leader that we had, Mr. Morrison, Scott Morrison. There's actually a massive difference in all the things that are happening. in our country here in Australia now that we have a Labour government. It's really quite astounding. There was a family that had been living in Australia. They came here as refugees, as boat people, so they were actually illegal immigrants, right? And then 5 years ago, the Liberal government decided to send them into the detention center. Well, the two girls they had actually been born in Australia, right? So that was a bit difficult. I mean, the parents were obviously illegal immigrants from Sri Lanka. And for the last 5 years, they've been living in detention centers. I mean, imagine yourself growing up. I think the eldest is now, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something like that. And the youngest is 5. But imagine yourself growing up in a detention center. So you're living somewhere and all of a sudden people in the night come and take you away. And for 5 years, then you just live in essentially what is a glorified prison with your parents. But now they have been brought back home. So there's at least one positive thing that came out of this election. But also, we seem to be also more engaged in the Pacific region again, right? And Southeast Asia as well. There's a lot more effort that the Prime Minister as well as the defense and foreign ministers are making, I guess, getting us back in touch with our immediate neighbors, trying to curb the influence of China. But like I said, you've got Kim Jong-un, okay, you got Xi Jinping, you got Joe Biden, you got Vladimir Putin. Those are the main players. I mean, Boris Johnson, he's a bit funny. Emmanuel Macron of the French, the French. Doesn't really matter that much. But we are living in personality-driven times of politics, not ideologies. I mean, what are the opposing ideologies here? Seriously, what are they? That's a serious question, because I don't see them anymore. China is not a communist country. North Korea is not a communist country. America is not a capitalist society. Russia is not a communist country. All the countries in the world now probably can be classified in, I guess, fairly simple terms as either authoritarian or quasi-authoritarian or fascist. Those are the three classifications I see. There might be some others, but that's the main ones. So authoritarian, that's clear. I mean, China is authoritarian. North Korea is authoritarian. Nobody would argue with that, right? Russia is oligarchically authoritarian. So so it's still on the spectrum, though. Okay, definitely on the spectrum. America is now a fascist country. I know you don't like to hear that. I know you don't. And I explained to you before why you are living in a fascist country. Why is that, Mackie? Why is that? Capitalism, all right, in its purest form, states that the market is self-regulating, right? So I mean, essentially what it means is if you leave the market alone, companies that are successful will thrive, and companies that are not will not. And wages are self-regulating, et cetera, et cetera. So none of this is true, of course, because people, right? And anytime anyone has a good idea, it always fails because people. But when the wealth, and I keep harping on about this, I know, but when the wealth was distributed on a titanic scale in the mid-noughties or thereabouts, we moved from capitalism into fascism. The government stepped in and said, no, these companies can't fail. I don't care if the company is a bank or not, or some other kind of institution. It's a company, privately owned. And the government stepped in and said, you have billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, so you won't go under. By the way, you were going under because of your own fault. Let's just examine what actually happened before I go back to the billions and billions and billions of dollars that were given away. So what actually happened in the crisis, right? Because this goes to the heart of the issue we're facing today, right? Globally speaking, in fact. And I don't see a way out of it that is in any which way good or desirable. What happened was this. Banks like to make money. Any corporation. The one thing a corporation has to do is to make money, right? That's the most important thing. In fact, that's the only thing that matters. They talk, the corporations talk a lot about, what was it, community responsibility and doing the right thing by the people, doing all these initiatives and blah, blah, blah. And that's all nonsense. I'm sure there's some things that are happening right now. That's awesome. That's all good. Problem is that there's really only one prime mover for any corporation. That's to make money. Profit. Profit, 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 profit. That's it. Full stop. Nothing else matters. Right? Anything else that's being done is incidental. And it's really only done to make the business look better, put it in a position where it can win more business or have it pay less taxes. But the ultimate goal of any corporation is to make money. Right? That's it. Full stop. Right. Now, what happened in the States is really interesting. So, of course, you've got tens of millions of houses, hundreds of millions of properties in the United States, right? Family homes, millions and millions and millions. And people go out and get a loan from a bank and purchase a home. That's what happens, right? Normally, unless you're really rich and you can afford it outright, or you're Amish and you just build a home wherever you like, which is pretty cool, by the way. But for the most part, and this is pretty much the way it is in most developed countries anyway, you go to the bank, you get a loan, and you purchase or build your home. Either way, right? And then you got a mortgage. Now, that mortgage requires you to pay certain amounts of money back to the bank, usually with interest, which means that the bank is making a profit on what you do, which is good because it's there to make a profit, right? And so you pay your mortgage. That's what you do. Now, what the banks did, though, and not just in America, what the banks did was to give money to people that could not afford a mortgage, right? They simply couldn't. They weren't in a position financially to actually pay off their home, right? And they're called bad loans. They're rated very poorly, all right? There's a credit rating, or there's a rating of how well one is positioned to pay a loan back and how poorly one is positioned to pay a loan back. And those people were positioned very poorly. So there was a high risk loan, meaning they're probably not going to be able to, they're going to default on the loan and the bank will then, have to deal with the remaining assets. Because in America, unlike many other places in the world, you can walk away from your debt. You go to the bank, here's the key. Thank you very much. I will see you later. Right. So, what happened? Well, what happens is this. A mortgage is essentially an income-generating obligation. Okay? It's a piece of paper that says this person will have to pay me every month, I don't know, whatever money, $1,000 a month to pay off their home. Right? That's really, really important. So off they go and do that. And that's income with interest. So you're actually making money on it, right? So what these banks do, they take these mortgages and they package them up. Okay, they package them up into what they call financial instruments. I will dispense with all the jargon and I will just tell you what happens. So there's a whole bunch of paper or pieces of paper, which are the mortgages, and they're packaged up into one big document, into one big bundle of stuff, 100, 1,000, it doesn't really matter, right? And then they are analyzed, right? Okay, so these mortgages, like these pieces of paper are generating X amount of money every month, and we're looking, and this will, they're all really good loans. These are people that can afford it. So we're going to give them an A or AAA rating. I think it is a AAA rating here. These are really great loans. It's a very secure investment. So they're taking these financial instruments, these bundles of mortgages, and they're selling them into superannuation funds, for example, right? The superannuation fund will take, oh, that's great, I'll take it, because there's an income that comes in every month. So you've bought it and it generates an income for you. But other investors can invest in it as well. Okay. Now, if they are in fact triple rated mortgages, great. Because if they're triple A rated, that means that the people that hold these mortgages can pay for them. That's nice. That's nice. The banks like that. But the banks like to make money because they're selling these packages or bundles at a profit. Right? They're selling them and they're making money on these sales. So what they started doing, they started to bundle up the less stellar loans, the non-AAA rated, but still call them AAA rated. How's that possible, Mackie? The rating agencies, that gave the banks, and there wasn't just one, there was a number of them, that gave the banks the AAA rating for those particular mortgages, were paid by the banks. it's like you're going to a mechanic, or the DMV or whatever, or the motor registry or whatever, and the only way they can exist is by you paying for them. So you're their sole income, and if you don't rate them well, so if you don't pass my car, if I come to you and I want to get my car passed, right? So I'm coming to the motor registry, and I'll give you $500. Here you go, $500, and then you look at my car. Oh, your car is not it's not roadworthy. What do you mean it's not roadworthy? I just give you $500. Register my car. And no, I can't. It's it doesn't work. Okay, so I'll take my $500 and I go somewhere else. I go to another motor registry. Well, so here's $500. Register my car. And they will go because they want more money. Yes, sir. Your car is just fine. Now, this is what happened with these mortgages, right? The ratings agencies will rate them AAA. Because if they didn't, then the banks would go to another ratings agency, and they would probably A rate them or AAA rate them. Okay, so that's actually what happened. Believe it or not, it's insane. I know, but that's what happened. So you've got these falsely AAA rated mortgages, and there were a lot of them. And make no mistake, each time a bank person sells a mortgage to anyone, really, they make money. Right, they get commissions, and there was a massive commissions grab prior to the a number of years prior to the crisis, where these people were encouraged to write loans, right? So as many as you can, and you get a huge bonus, and there's a branch bonus, and there's bonuses for everybody, and everybody's making lots of money, and who cares if nobody can ever pay for this, right? Nobody cared because everybody's making money. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. So you have these AAA rated, incorrectly AAA rated, horrible mortgages, right, out there, but with a AAA rating. So everybody's putting them in, everybody's investing in them, everybody's putting their money into it, everybody's thinking, oh, what a wonderful thing this is, until the bottom dropped out of the entire sector, and people simply couldn't afford to pay their mortgages anymore. Couldn't do it. So they essentially said to the bank, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. So all of a sudden, these papers which were valued fairly highly are now worth nothing. They're worth exactly nothing. And that caused a knock-on effect, because people that had been well off saw their investments go down significantly because of these poorly rated, mortgage papers. So they all of a sudden were also in dire straits now, and they couldn't, service their mortgage, and on and on and on. It was like a domino effect, completely fueled by greed initially. And that's what happened. And that's how even the global economy collapsed, and these banking houses collapsed, some of them. And the government stepped in and said, no, we can't let that happen. My buddies that I play golf with, I want to play golf with them still. Let's give them tens, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so they did. More in America than anywhere else in the world. I think Iceland was the only place on the planet where they didn't do that. Okay? Pardon me. So, where were we? Oh, yes. So they took these these bankers in Iceland. I think it was Iceland. It was either Iceland or Greenland. I can't remember. I want to say Iceland. They didn't do that. They actually, I think they actually locked these bankers up. Okay, and they didn't make the banks not fail. Right? That's really the critical thing to understand. Everywhere else in the world, they bailed the banks out. Everywhere. Every bank, all the big banks were bailed out. I mean, some banks, were left to fail because, otherwise it would just look too bad. But the major ones, they're still playing. They're still part of the big game, right? This is really, really important to understand. The American government or other governments stepped in and decided to give the money from Main Street, that's you, to Wall Street. And you think, okay, well, that's very generous. What are the repayment terms? No repayment terms. Never paid back. Never will be paid back. What did these bankers do? Clearly, they built more robust businesses. They had more rigorous testing procedures. They had more rigorous certification procedures, and everything was cleaned up. And the banking sector is now on a sound footing. They gave themselves big, fat bonuses, and nothing changed. I think they're a little bit more cautious now about handing out loans, right? That definitely happens. But for the most part, that money did nothing except make some rich people even richer. That's it. That's all it did. And then for the last few years now, we've had something we haven't had in a long time, which is super low interest rates, which encouraged a lot of people to buy property all over the world, because this is a global phenomenon again. And just now, recently, the banks are moving, the central banks, which are privately owned, by the way, for the most part, are moving again to increase interest rates. Why? To curb inflation, they say. Because what happens is this, right? If the government or the central banks want to encourage people to spend, they lower the interest rates. So they need more money in the economy. We don't want people, hoarding money in savings. Let them spend it, right? And if you don't get much money in your bank, then you're more likely to spend it, right? But if they want people to save, they increase the interest rates. That makes sense. I put all money in the bank, I get a nice return. Thank you very much, right? Now that's the opposite knock-on effect, of course, on a whole bunch of other people. I mean, if interest rates are low, as I said, you will spend, right? And you might even overspend, especially when it comes to property. You're overspending on property, so you're getting this house you can't afford, and you're just able to pay for it. And maybe you might even be able to pay for it if interest rates went up by 1 or 2 or 3 percentage points. All right, you might still be okay because you got yourself a little buffer. But if they rise more significantly, then you will not be able to pay for that anymore. You may be forced to sell your house or have the bank foreclose it or something. So I suspect another global correction is coming our way, and it's really interesting because the thing is, none of this is real, guys and girls, and none of this is actually reality. It is a complete fabrication, because inflation is not real, interest rates are not real, and by that I mean is they're not some kind of natural law. It's not like gravity. When you stumble, you will fall down. This is not that. Someone decided to do these things, to make money, to be rich, to be whatever, right? And to keep us in fear and uncertainty. So there we are then, right? Trying to stem what's the best word? A fabricated inflationary crisis, right? And we do that by increasing interest rates, because that will curb spending. That means it'll decrease the volume of money in the economy. That's really what they want to do, increase the volume of money. Because if you decrease the volume, then in their minds, prices will go down again, right? Because people will spend less, so prices will go down, demand will go down. If demand goes down, clearly prices have to go down as well, and we can, kick inflation in the butt. But that's but again, please do understand, all of this is it's a trick. It's a con game. None of it is real. It is only designed to make you worry. It is designed to keep you off balance. It's designed to make sure that you don't know what is going on. Okay, that's really the critical thing here. You don't know what is happening. You don't know what the future holds, because the truth is, most of us, well, I do, but most of us don't understand how this whole thing actually works, and we're not taught. No one teaches us how this actually hangs together. No one says, oh, okay, so right, so what happens here? We don't learn about it. We learn about the economy and the theories in general, but nobody really tells us to look behind the curtain. Right? Money in and of itself, fiat currency, fiat currency, and this is according to some really senior economists, right, is the greatest fraud ever perpetrated on humanity, right in line with fractional reserve lending. So fiat currency and fractional reserve lending are the worst thing that ever happened to us as a civilization. Why? Because it creates value out of nothing. It creates something out of nothing. See, at one point in our history, we decided, oh, we're gonna commoditize our labor, right? 1 hour of my time is worth $10, for argument's sake, or fish, or brick, or whatever it is, right? And then so we decided, okay, we're gonna start this barter system here. We're bartering, you know, I'll get 10 fish, and you give me, you know, 2 piles of wood, and that works out, or, you know. And then someone came along, oh, that's really cumbersome. Let's have a medium of exchange. A medium of exchange. As soon as we accepted to have a medium of exchange, things started to go down south very, very rapidly. A medium of exchange used to have intrinsic value. Well, for the most, I mean, gold and silver and diamonds. I mean, in today's industries, they actually have value. You can use them in, you know, industrial processes. In and of themselves, they don't have any value at all, really. Except maybe, you know, for almost a white gold powder, but I'm not going there at the moment. But at least there was something tangible, like gold, right? So people decided that gold is a good medium of exchange, right? It's heavy, it's relatively portable, right? In coin format, or, you know, little bars or whatever it might be. It's a bit heavy, but you can still move it around. But it was cumbersome. So I decided, you know, let's leave all our gold in one place. So we left all our gold in one place, at the goldsmith or whoever had a safe, you know, like a strong box that could hold our gold would leave it. We would leave it with them, and they would give us a letter saying that we had gold deposited with them, or other valuables, whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter. So these notes of these pieces of paper are a lot, of course, easier to transport and a lot easier to transact with, right? And that was done on a large scale. And then, you know, the banking system was born as we know it today. The Rothschilds are instrumental in that. Even the Chinese invented paper money in the first instance, but it was always government issued. The government, the king or whatever of the time, would always issue the currency. It was a sovereign right to issue currency. That changed, right, a few hundred years ago. And when that changed, everything changed. And I think it was Amsel Rothschild that said, I don't care who makes the rules in the land, as long as I get to issue its currency. He said a very true thing. It doesn't matter, because you control whoever makes the rules. If you issue currency, if you have the right to issue currency, you don't care who makes the rules, because the rules don't apply to you at all. Makes no sense, makes no difference at all. None, zero. So, and that's where we are, right? We're in a system where currency is issued by non-governmental institutions, privately owned for the most part. So the government says, hey, Mr. Private Institution, here's a piece of paper that says, I owe you $10 billion. Please print $10 billion. And you know, they're more than happy to oblige. They're printing $10 billion. Off it goes in the economy, and everybody's happy. So let me ask you this. Where did those $10 billion come from? Well, the answer is nowhere. They don't exist. The government just says that they now owe these $10 billion to the people that actually printed the money. Where did they get the money from? Nowhere. They got it from nowhere. And that's why this fiat currency, and then I get to fractional reserve lending in a second, are the biggest frauds, the biggest crimes, the biggest unethical actions on the planet today. Because this money doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But think about this for a second. The government now owes these people, whoever they are, $10 billion. Or whatever the number is. 100 billion, trillion, doesn't really matter, right? And the government has to service the loan. So they're now paying interest on the money that they asked those people to print. Where did that money come from? didn't come from anywhere. It's just because the government says I need it. The other people printed it. The government should not owe anyone anything. And that's what I'm talking about, right? If you have government issued currency, sovereign currency, no one is owed anything. The government just issues it. There's no one owes anything on that money. And that's what happened in the United States, believe it or not, at the beginning. Right? And it happened in the late colonial era as well. That's what actually led to the American Revolutionary War, not the Boston Tea Party, not representation without, not taxation without representation, none of that. It was about the right to issue currency, debt-free currency, actual real currency. Because all we have today is debt. We're passing promissory notes to each other, debt notes. If the money was ever paid back that is owed by all the governments in the world, there would be no money in circulation. Yeah? Because it's all dead. It's not real. It's in fact, it's negative money, if anything. Because it doesn't exist. It does not exist. It only has value because fiat. I said so. Just because I said so. We say so. We say it's got a value, therefore it's got a value. So shut up. But why are we going? Why is the government going to these institutions, to these privately held central banks for the most part, and get the money printed and then give those, central banks promissory notes of debt, bonds they're called, treasury bonds, that say, yeah, we owe you money. For what? For printing the money? For the act of print. So we owe you all this money now for the act of printing the money, which came from exactly where again? Makes your blood boil, doesn't it? But that's where we are. This is what it is. Now, it actually gets worse, right? So you think this is pretty bad. It is pretty bad, but it actually gets worse when you talk about fractional reserve lending. So what's that? I mean, I have got banking friends and they don't know what that is. I say, how can you work in the banking sector and not know what fractional reserve lending is? Oh, it's not my field. It's not what I do. I do this. This is what I do. Yeah, but you're in this thing. Don't you wonder how all of this happens? Where does the money come from? How does the bank operate? Don't you understand? I mean, doesn't it interest you at all how a bank operates on a very fundamental level? No, not really. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee here. Nothing like cold coffee, yeah. Fractional reserve lending. I'm Bob, and Bob has a bank account, and Bob puts $100 of real money into his bank account. He just, he earned it. It's there. Let's just assume it's a real piece of money, $100 worth. It goes into the bank. There it is. Beautiful. It represents work that Bob did, or something. Now the bank says, "Thank you, Bob, for giving me your money. Because you're giving it to me, I'll give you an interest rate for that. So you give me $100, and there it is. And for that, I'll give you 2%, 3%. I mean, these days it's pretty low, but it used to be quite high. Up to 5 to 10%. You could get 15%, 20% even, depending on which bank you were with. It was offshore, onshore, etc., etc. But you could get good interest. Now you have to ask yourself, well, where does this interest come from? That's a good question. Okay, we get to it in a second. But so you got the $100 that Bob has, and he gets his interest there, and so Bob is happy, and the bank is happy because the bank is now allowed to lend out money based on Bob's $100, and that's why it's called fractional reserve lending. So they only have to hold a fraction of the money they lend out in reserve. Only a fraction of the money they actually lend to someone has to be held in reserve. But you ask yourself then, right, Mackie, where does this money come from? So if Bob has $100, that's actually the actual money in the bank, and the bank is then allowed to lend out more. How much more, Mackie? Well, some countries have a 1% rule, meaning the bank has to hold 1% or 10% or whatever it might be. Let's say it's 10%, right? That means, Bob has now generated $1,000 for the bank that it can loan out on. Where does that money come from? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The $1,000 the bank is loaning out to other people based on Bob's original $100 doesn't exist. But the payments the bank receives from those people that have taken these $1,000 will help pay Bob's interest. Only a small fraction will go to Bob's interest, but some of it will, creating even more money that doesn't exist. Okay? Now, some countries, though, and this is really cool, and Australia is one of them, I think in America, I'm not sure, there is no minimum reserve. banks can lend out whatever they want, as long as they have something. But they're encouraged to have money in reserve. They're encouraged to do that. But they don't have to. They can lend whatever they like. They don't have to hold any money in reserve. No real funds. Right? Some countries. Australia is one of them. So you ask yourself, okay, so the government goes to these bankers or these central banks. They print money that doesn't exist. Okay, that goes in the economy. And then Bob takes that money and goes to the bank and he puts $100 in, and the bank can then use that $100 to lend out $1,000 on top of it, which doesn't exist. And at that point, you should ask yourself, well, what happens if you do that? Well, what happens is you get inflation. Inflation refers to the amount of money in the economy. How much money, the volume of money, if you will, right? And you can see here, right? I think you can see here that these two mechanisms by which money seems to be created out of thin air can't have any other outcome but inflation. Okay? So we are creating inflation. And there are other factors now as well. Once you're in the world and this all happens in the wild, there are other things coming into it. But those are the two main roads to inflation. Right? And nobody questions our system. Yeah, that's just the way it is. No, it's insane. It's insane. And it doesn't even make sense. It does. But if whenever someone tried to change this system, right? This is my pet hate. That's why I talk so much about it. They killed them. Whenever there was anyone threatening the status quo of, hey, I don't think this is a good system. Let's just have sovereign currency. Let's have currency issued by the state. No, don't start your car. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Very bad idea. So we're living in a system that is so gamed. You you have to burn it down. You can't fix it. You can't repair it. Okay, it is beyond redemption. The system that we're in, it is so corrupt, and it is so gamed toward those that have versus those that don't, that there will never be a good outcome. There will never be an equitable understanding reached here. Okay, and as we speak, the gap between those that have and are fully aware of the system and how it works, and are fully aware of the advantages it has for them, right? Because they're getting richer and richer, because they do understand it. They really understand it. Whereas the regular Joe in the street doesn't understand it at all, right? And no one ever sits down and explains it either, because that would be the end of the system. If people truly understood how this all hangs together, right? Well, actually, these days, I'm not sure. Maybe people are too apathetic, maybe too lethargic. I don't know. Maybe we've done enough with the food or the near food they've been given on, and all the drugs that are pumped through the system that they just accepted. But if people 40, 50 years, 60 years ago had understood how this actually all works, there would have been quite some brouhaha. Because it is wrong. That's it. It's just wrong. And the gulf, as I said, between the rich and the poor gets bigger and bigger, and there's more and more wealth concentrated at the top. And we can see it. I mean, the wealth distribution on the planet is catastrophic. Like I said this before, there are 2,668 billionaires, right? So between them, they have many, 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 many billions. Because you have to have at least 8 billion to be a billionaire. So it means they're close to at least $3 trillion in the hands of about 3,000 people, right? At least 3 trillion. That's a lot. That's a lot of moolah. And we have thousands of children starving to death every day. We actually do. That's a real number, right? Thousands of children. It costs $4 a day about to feed a child. I mean, not lobster and caviar, but good food, good nutritious food every day. $4. $4 does it, right? Let's make it $10 to account for everybody. It probably takes between $10 and $20 to feed a human being a day, right? Not lavish. I mean, but like enough calories and food to live to live well, not to starve, but not to be hungry, right? Right? I reckon $20 could do it for not just for children, but for anybody, right? Basic food. I mean, rice, beans, maybe some fats, some oils. It's enough. $20 is enough. But we don't do that. We don't do that. Okay. We do not do that. Why do we not do that? Because we don't think like that. We weren't brought up like that. We were brought up to be cogs in the machine. We were brought up to respect the machine. Okay. We were brought up not. In fact, we're brought up not even to understand that there is a machine. This is just life. This is just how life is. Mackie, shut up. This is just the way life is. Just what? What do you want to question here? I don't understand. I don't get it. Excuse me? What great injustice? What machine? The people that run the machine are fully aware. The people that run the machine are fully aware. Right. And they're aware of many other things too. But I'll get to that in the second hour, right? Look, it's been awesome talking to you all, and thank you so much for having me in your homes. Don't touch the dial. We'll be back after the very short break. Do remember that this is listener-funded radio, okay? Which means if you like what you hear, not just me, but all the hosts, and then look, you might not like some of the hosts, you might not like what I say. That's cool, but if you like some of the other stuff that's on this channel, and then I tell you, there's a lot on this channel, and I don't really agree with some of it either, right? But people should have a platform to speak, to speak from. We should have a speaker's corner, and this is like a speaker's corner, right? But this speaker's corner costs money. Electricity is not cheap, so if you can spare some money, any currency is fine. Any form of money, crypto or cash or a legal tender, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you can spare to donate or buy some of the merch or become a patron or whatever. Whatever works for you, but maybe you can't afford it, and that's okay too. I mean, if you just like the information, like to listen, then that's cool. Maybe spread the word, right? Spread the word. Tell other people. If you can't afford it to donate, then tell others. Maybe when they start listening, maybe they can afford to. Right? So if you can't afford, that's okay. That's cool. Don't go away. Keep listening, but tell your friends, tell your family, tell them to listen. And like I said, maybe they can afford to donate some to keep the servers running. Because the puppet show that you see on TV, that's not reality, okay? According to the media cycles today, COVID is done. There's no more COVID. It's all good. Because it's not a news story anymore, right? It's just not on people's mind. It's just not interesting, right? Children starving. Yeah, there's a food crisis, sure. But when you talk about big numbers like millions and millions, it doesn't really mean anything, right? Doesn't mean it's much more immediate when you've got 10, 20, 30 people die. That's a tragedy. But when a million people die, it's very hard to comprehend. We don't really understand that unless you see it. If you ever saw it, if you went to this place and actually saw it, I think you would be you probably live a very different kind of life than you do now. But again, I'm not questioning anyone's motivations or lifestyles. Far be it for me to impose anything on anyone. I just like you to think about it, right? Like I said, though, don't go away. And here's the bumper, right? We'll be back right after this.